So then you go to Philippe Chow's?
Correct.
So, okay, so how does that happen?
One of my jobs throughout college was, one of my first jobs was detailing cars. I grew up in New Jersey, Short Hills, New Jersey, worked for a lot of executives that worked in Manhattan. So I had a car detailing business throughout high school. And then when I was in college, that turned into a driving job where I would drive some of those executives around as a summer job or during the holidays to different meetings, family functions. And then one of those people that I worked for knew the owners of Philippe Chow. I had no idea what Philippe Chow was. I had no idea what working in a New York City restaurant was like. But I got the opportunity to work at Philippe Chow, which was and is a premier restaurant on the Upper East Side of Manhattan.
And what'd you do there?
I was a waiter.
You was a waiter?
Yeah.
So how long were you a waiter?
So I was a waiter for 9 months. Worked, I think I started in March, went to the Hamptons for a pop-up location that they did that summer. And then at the end of the summer, a manager position opened up. And within 9 months, I was managing that location.
You was managing Philippe Chow's?
Correct.
And then you left Philippe Chow's?
Yeah, after I had a nice 5-year run there, and I ended up leaving.
So as a manager, as the people are coming in, are you building clientele? Like, what are the roles? Are you promoting this? Are you helping marketing people coming in? Are you bringing clients and celebs in? Like, what is the role as the manager?
Yeah, so they obviously, there was always 3 managers on staff, and I was the lowest on the totem pole. So I always had the worst shifts, the closing shifts, the weekends, the holidays. And then I was about 27 years old at the time, so I would go out every night with the different, artists and athletes that would come to the restaurant. This was before Instagram existed, before Uber existed. So, one of the artists would come in, they would say, like, where's the spot tonight afterwards? And they're like, all right, meet me there at 1 o'clock. I would meet them outside, get them in. And this was an era where house music was really predominant and hip hop wasn't really the thing in clubs or, in the social circle. So I would go with different artists and the artist would buy a table and go to the club. It's different than things have been in the past few years, but artists weren't getting paid to go to the clubs. They were paying to be there. So that's kind of how the relationships evolved. And then when I would be in the club, I would get introduced to the people that were at the table next to us and the table next to us and a lot of people from out of town. And then, they would come into the restaurant the next night. So, I would build relationships in the restaurant, but I would really, expand my network when I would go out. And that was a big part of what I would do.
So what made you want to leave, Philippe?
There was an ownership change, different philosophy. And then they wanted me to sign a non-compete agreement, but they weren't really offering me anything in terms of staying.
So then that's when you go to Julian Club.
There was another restaurant in between called Red Sticks, which was short-lived, but the guy who hired me at Philippe Chow opened up Red Sticks, so I ended up moving over there with him.
So the non-compete, break that down a little bit. They once you couldn't work at any other restaurant, that would be considered a competitor to them?
It pretty much said I couldn't work at another Asian eatery, and I couldn't open up my own restaurant that was in the Asian food space.
It's like a Tao Group when that
was like I couldn't even go work for Tao Group, pretty much what it was saying.
Okay.
So so after that, you realize that's not for you. So are you thinking about becoming an entrepreneur at this point, or are you still thinking about just being a manager?
At that point, I was at a crossroads of, leaving hospitality and doing something more, 9 to 5 corporate. So, I just kind of kept going down that road. I stuck to hospitality and, did Red Sticks. That didn't work out. And then went back to the corporate world where I was working for a company called Harry, which was like a Craigslist for hospitality jobs. So I was doing that, but I would go to that job, 8 o'clock in the morning till 7 o'clock at night. And then my clients would call me and ask me, can you get me a reservation at Philippe or one of the other restaurants? So I would go to dinner with them and then I'll go out with them and then wake up again, 6 o'clock in the morning. And it was a vicious cycle. So, after doing that for probably about a year, I decided to go back to the hospitality business. And that's when Julian opened. And
then your role there was manager?
Correct.
So you're in the managerial role. So from a manager's perspective, you're learning, you're courting talent to people to come into the restaurant. Are you also learning as far as logistics of how to run a restaurant, like food cost and operations and stuff like that? Or are you more just bringing people to the establishment?
Yeah, so one of the reasons that I quickly, moved up the ladder in terms of being a waiter to a manager was that I understood, the back end of the business in terms of, doing payroll, doing inventory, the food costs, and a lot of the financials that go behind the business. A lot of my coworkers were more focused on the hospitality and the restaurant business, but not the economics behind it. So that kind of allowed me to move up, and then understanding technology. A lot of the people I worked with were much older than me. They didn't understand how to even use emails or use social media. So I set up a lot of the social media platforms for the places that I was working at the time.
How did you learn the financial aspect of the business?
For me, it was just
Observing?
a little bit of what I learned in college and a little bit of common sense.